welcome to our presentation today. It's on simple steps to prevent ransomware attacks. So over the last few years, ransomware attacks have been massively on the rise. Everyone's kind of aware or have heard it in some way, shape or form. But I'm going to cover today a bit about, what does it mean for you? Show you a little bit of a demo and what does it look like for people who monitor these attacks, and how people can deal with it and steps you can take to sort of prevent it. So ransomware attacks in 2022 seems so far away now, since we're nearly in 2024, rose over 151%, and it's been described in the UK as one of the biggest threats that organisations and individuals are facing. In the first 6 months alone of 2023, there was around 40 new variants made. If you think of that, that's 1 or 2 a week being spread to sort of organisations to effectively affect them and shut down their business. So it's a really, really big problem. Gone are the days of men in balaclavas holding up banks. It's now online, and this is what they're doing. So what does a hacker think about, and what are the common misconceptions by people affected by ransomware? They think, it wouldn't happen to them. They're a small business, a small organisation, or they're too large and they just have too much complexity that they wouldn't be affected. Their IT teams are massive. Why them? Why would someone go them? It's just kids, mucking around, so that, maybe affected by something small and think it's just someone chancing their arm a little bit, and it's not really going to have a sort of major lasting impact. And again, companies think, or especially smaller companies or medium organisations, they just don't have the resources to look after it. And that ties back into, so they think it just won't happen to them. So again, why do hackers use this? I mean, there's political motives, there's shock value, financial gain, but the main one is financial gain. There's been a rise of what they call double extortion, where people not only hold your data to ransom and encrypt it, but they've already stolen your data and plan on selling it anyway. So what does this look like? How does it affect the network? This is an example of a typical email you might see in regards to what would be a phishing attack, and this would be the first step in gaining entry to your network to likely affect it with malware and cause a ransomware attack. So I'm sure most people see these kind of mails on a daily basis, and it would sort of entice you to click some sort of link. It may look like an organisation that you already deal with. It may look like it comes from your organisation. These are really cleverly constructed mails to try trick you into letting an attacker in. And this is just like an example on the left. When you do click that link, malware gets deployed onto your system, starts to spread, and before you know it, you get what's on the right, and that's your data encrypted. So what should you do next? So some of the problems and conceptions I mentioned earlier about people who feel they maybe don't have the resources or to cover it all, or they're too big to possibly cover it all. Try break it up. Have you profiled the threats? Who are the likely people to attack your organisation? Is it a disgruntled employee? Is it a disgruntled employee from certain departments that would have the skills? Maybe someone in IT would. Maybe someone in another department wouldn't have those skills. So there's, it's creating that who is the biggest threat and try to deal with that. So is it internal? Is it external? Are you a high-profile organisation that are global and people would, and you may be in a certain industry where there's certain people who would likely attack you or target you. Think about that, break it down into sort of manageable chunks in regards to who your threat are. Do a bit of research. These threats, what do they likely do? What is their general methods of attack? What kind of things are they known for? And again, that allows you to use what resources you have to sort of create those defences with what you've got to try and mitigate the sort of threat from a serious attack. What would you do in the event of attack? Do you have everything in place in terms of the technology, the people? Is there an action plan? Is there a response plan as such? who's involved in that, who leads that up. It's just the same as, if a fire alarm is going off, there's dedicated fire marshals and everyone knows where they're going to go. It's exactly the same for, an event of a ransomware attack or any cyber attack as such. What do? You need to act quick, and do you know how you'd recover? What is the impact to your organisation? Is there, again, it's about breaking it down. Is there certain servers and certain locations within your organisation that if they go down, it's, business is over, business is shut down, you can't trade anymore. You need to try protect them first, or target what resources you have to protect them, and then move out to sort of other systems as such. Do you know the impact, the potential financial costs of these systems going down? What does it cost per day? Is it really worth not paying for maybe a certain tool or to a certain organisation to help protect your business? If you were to stop trading, you need to weigh up these costs and risks. Then follow best practice. Again, like I said previously, find out who your threats are, do a bit of research. The threat actors generally follow similar patterns, and just sort of tweak them ever so slightly as they go on, so you can generally get an idea of who they are and the things they'll do. And there's loads of information in terms of out there in terms of things you can do, best practices and such. So just kind of highlighting again the points I've spoke about. You need to, in terms of breaking it down, understanding your assets is a big thing. What have you got? What's critical to your organisation? What could you afford to lose or to go down for certain periods, and what could you not? Cataloguing everything is quite important. If there's something on your systems, on your network that's not supposed to be there, whether it's a machine on the network or certain applications on your systems, that if you've not catalogued that, then you might not be aware that that's anything unusual or anything different, and it could be a malicious threat actor or a malicious application on your devices. Have good controls. Operate least privilege where possible, and that means that only the people that should have access do have access to certain things. In the event of a user account being compromised, that limits, just as I kind of showed earlier, that one user might not be able to log on to absolutely every machine in your organisation, or only certain critical machines. And then by using that forensic response to find out that user, you can go, right, I know where they have access, and shut that down very quickly. That's quite important. Have a means of rapid detection. I showed you one tool that has eyes on. There's various tools that do similar things, but if you don't have any eyes and you can't see what's going on, then you're not going to know until it's too late. It's all good having the tools that stop these things, but if you can't see them, then you're trusting the tools that stop these things to be configured correctly. You have to have some eyes on to always be able to see, what is happening in your system, because it could potentially be a new strain that isn't picked up by some of these prevention systems yet. So you want to know what's going on. Have an effective response plan. I just spoke about that. When it does go wrong, what do you do? Who's involved? Get everyone together, have that plan written out. Be in a position to recover quickly. Time is money to every organisation, and how quickly you can get back on your feet is massive, and a sign of a good response plan. Make sure you plan and test. It's essential. If you've got backups, make sure you test them regularly. If you don't test them, then it's as good as saying as you don't have backups. Make sure any response plans that you create, again, are tested regularly, every so months or so, and tweaked accordingly based on any feedback that comes out of them. So that was my talk today, and I'll be quite happy to sort of field any questions on that now. Thank you.
Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I just had a couple questions to go through with you, if that's all right.
Yeah, certainly. Fire away.
So, considering the drastic rise in ransomware attacks over the past 12 months, what do you believe are the most significant contributing factors to this trend?
I think it's the change of businesses. We had a sort of global pandemic that led to a lot of remote working being forced upon people, and the effects of that, I think, are sort of long lasting. Some businesses are still working remote, some have went hybrid, some are, going back to the office. But because we're still in this flux of change and new ways of working, I think people are trying to take advantage of that in any loopholes that exist. So I think that's the massive contributor. Everybody is sitting at their computer working, well, it's in their house or in an office. So there's people that can be targeted very easily.
Definitely, I think we've definitely been thrust into a new digital age, with that work-life balance shift, like you said, in terms of hybrid working, and general employees might also not be as cyber aware as you typically, you or I might be potentially, so they might think that it's absolutely okay to go meet their friend for a coffee and log in with the public Wi-Fi on their work laptop, and actually they're just opening themselves up and the organisation to vulnerabilities that is difficult to mitigate from a business perspective. And just based on your experiences in the theme of that, why do you think that businesses, despite ransomware attacks happening absolutely every day, still adopt that it won't be me mindset when it comes to cyber attacks?
I think largely it's human nature. We think we'll go out every day and it won't be us that gets hit by a bus walking by the street, or it won't be us that that gets robbed or anything like that. I think that partly is human nature. We always think unless it happens close to us or happens to us, it's one of those. If you've not touched the fire, do you believe it's hot? It's a bit like that, and I think businesses will always adopt that mindset to some degree, is that it won't happen to them, and it's not just through cyber attacks. It's a lot of things when trying to manage a business and place resources. They think it can be better spent elsewhere. So I think that will always continue in some way, shape, or form, and it's up to someone in the business to sort of take note and take it serious, but it's also up to the people who do know things in the field to sort of educate people where possible and get that information out there through various channels as well, to the people who are less fortunate or that don't know or unaware, or, like we've just kind of previously touched on, are in their house or the public Wi-Fi and think, not necessarily even think it won't happen to them, but are just unaware of what could happen to them, what the consequences of that are.
The classic human condition.
As...
I think also when people think of ransomware attacks and am I going to have my data stolen for Bitcoin, they typically think of a large corporate or a large business that has lots of data, lots of kind of money in the bank, a high turnover, and they're the type of businesses that are a threat, which of course they are. But also at the same time, you have these smaller organizations that are sitting there going, oh, not little old me, what could a cyber terrorist organization or a hacker, a bad actor want with me? I only work with 300 clients rather than 30,000. So but actually cyber attacks and ransomware attacks are hitting all types of businesses and for different reasons, and actually those smaller companies are probably a lot more vulnerable to cyber attacks, and they don't have the resources or the budget to properly defend themselves and improve their resilience like a large corporate might perhaps. So I think there's definitely lots of different factors there coming into play. And just from your perspective, how can organizations ensure that they're continuously updated on the latest cybersecurity trends, given obviously that it's such a fast landscape that's evolving?
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of resources out there. There's a lot of free resources out there as well, and especially by organisations like we've got the NCSC and the things that provide those free feeds to people on latest threats. There's lots of things out there in social media. It's just if you start looking for it, you'll start to unravel the thread and see there's lots of things out there that you don't have to sort of pay for to consume and get that information. So it's important that someone in the organisation starts that having that resource information is better than no information. What I said during the presentation is getting those eyes on is more important than having the tools that maybe stop it, because you can then pick what tools you need based on getting those eyes out there, and decide, are you likely to get attacked and to be a threat by that information, and profiling and breaking it down. Like you said there, if you are a small organisation, well, what kind of things affect a small organisation? And what it might not be the big bad massive group of hackers that come for you, but there might be some kid in their bedroom that'll make a fool out of you, or whether that's stopping your business by just shutting you down, or holding you to sort of ransom in some way, shape or form. So it's just go and looking to grab some of those free resources. It's out there.
Definitely. I suppose to quote an embarrassing quote of Mad-Eye Moody from Harry Potter, constant vigilance. Organizations definitely need to be mindful. There's lots of different motives for bad actors to act. And there's so many different places of parts of a business that can be attacked, and you can't possibly mitigate those attacks in all areas. So to be prepared for if an attack happens, when an attack happens, and what you do if that happens. So like we said, a small organization might not be able to continue as business as usual, like a larger corporate would. They might be, if their business is stopped for a few months, that could be the end of the business. So there's lots of different things to consider there. And just on a more technological note, obviously, given the rapid technological advancements, what challenges do businesses face in ensuring that their networks, applications, systems remain protected from evolving cyber threats?
I think it's about picking the right tools you need, and making sure you do your research in that space. I've came across a lot of people who they've got a lot of the sort of shiniest tools as such, that a lot of the kind of most marketed tools, and a lot of them do the same thing. They just maybe don't have the people that know that and things. So it's making sure they do the research, or they get the right people in who can make those right choices as to where they can spend that limited budget, because some of these tools are really expensive. So breaking it down again, what I said as well, breaking down what is critical to your business, so that then when you do go to select these tools, you maybe only need to cover a certain area of your business, and you can really divide up how you spend that money and spend it in the right places to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck, the most coverage, and the most effective coverage as such. I think that's important. The right people, making the sort of right choices, and doing the research.
And I think something that you highlighted in your presentation is one of the biggest threats for an organization when it comes to malware or ransomware is phishing, and it's human error is one of the biggest causes of these types of attacks. So I suppose if you are protecting your people and external people's entrance to your people when it comes to emails and firewalls, all of that type of things, that's going to probably be, in the majority of cases, your biggest threat area and your biggest risk. But obviously, like you said, it's different and established for each company depending on how you manage data, how you operationally run. And just looking towards the future, are there any emerging cybersecurity trends or threats that you believe businesses should be particularly wary of?
I think I touched on it slightly in my presentation. It's how ransomware is evolving, and it's not just they deploy ransomware and they want your money. It's double and triple extortion now. People are not only encrypting your files and wanting their money, they've already taken your data and they plan on doing things with that as well. And that's the case of sort of double extortion, or we've got triple extortion, where they're planning on they'll maybe DDoS your business as well, and keep you out of action through other methods as well. Just to make an example of you, it's how this is becoming it's ransomware in itself is a big problem, but how it's evolving to become an even a larger threat, because they can use that to affect you multiple ways.
Definitely. I know there's it's becoming a lot more of a concern in the general public as well. I mean, you've got the scandal at the moment happening with Temu, the shopping app thing, where obviously they're giving too good to be true discounts on all of these products, and people are falling for it absolutely every day. And it's about that all they're doing is they're pushing people to download their app, and they've been caught up in court cases previously for selling that data unauthorized and installing, you know, that kind of malware on your devices. So it's just, yeah, it's raising awareness of all of that, and to be wary of how it is evolving. I mean, we're seeing deep fakes come into play, and that's something that is going to rapidly change the future of scamming. So and hopefully, you know, we become more wary and gain that awareness of deciphering the difference between them. But when the technology gets too good, you know, you can't always rely on your own on you know, your human intuition. So it is about being responsible, investing in those parameters, and that's those solutions that can help prevent a lot of those attacks. And lastly, just to finish off, for businesses just starting on their journey to maybe bolster their cybersecurity, what would be the top actionable steps you'd recommend to safeguard against ransomware attacks?
I think some of the things I mentioned in the presentation would sort of be key, and requires a sort of least amount of money. Catalog your assets, know what you've got, and the sort of importance of each asset. You don't need fancy software to do that. It can be done in pen and paper, and installed the old-fashioned way. It's, you know, that's not going to cost a penny, and you know everything there. So you know, losing that, what does it mean to your business? Off of that catalog, you can create that action plan and that response plan of, okay, how do we fix this if it goes wrong, if it does get affected and things, and get some sort of monitoring in place. Again, there's various open source tools as well that you can use for free. It's not always, you know, commercial things that can get you some sort of eyes on. Can be quite user friendly and give you a general idea of what's going on. These are sort of things that you can do at relatively low cost, relatively, you know, low effort, especially if you're a business that's sort of starting out in a smaller business. You know, if you get in early enough, it's not going to be so much a mess to kind of sort out further down the line when you're trying to figure out where everything is, especially when you've got users working from all sorts of locations and things, and you don't know whether you've gave them a machine or not for their own home, or they're using their own device. It's yeah, making sure you've got that catalogue and have some sort of eyes on very early is good.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. Well, thank you, Alan. That's all we have time for, unfortunately. But it was really great getting to talk in more depth about kind of, you know, cyber resilience and cybersecurity in from an organisation perspective. So thank you. And if anybody has any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Alan on the platform and connect and find out more. Thank you.
Thank you.